So we've been in Meadow Park for 4 years.
What's
so it was by
life
accident.
inside Meadow Park?
It's not as I imagined. In fact, I didn't really know what I would imagine. It was a small development, 55 properties, mostly bungalows and houses, with fountains and gardens that were maintained, and it looked very, very attractive. Having lived in a very small hamlet where it was spread over one particular road, we didn't know what to expect. But I think it was it became apparent what it was going to be like when a number of people of similar age, all over the age of 55, said, we didn't think that at our time of life we would make many more new friends. And that's what it's all about. We've made so many new friends as a society, a small village, but we get together and people live by themselves and keep themselves to themselves when they want to. But we have a very, very active social committee, a very, very active residents committee who manage the process for us.
Now, you were chairman of the committee, and was it started under your...
Yes, it was. They talked about having a residents association, and we received information from the management company. So I did a bit of investigation and volunteered to set up the residents association. So I became chairman for 3 years. We had 6 people, a treasurer, a secretary and 3 other people, and we had a social committee. And it went from strength to strength because we were really in phase 1 when half the properties had been built, and then the rest of the properties were built about 12 months later. So we were there, we were up and running, and of course the rest of the residents came in, sometimes 2 or 3 a month, sometimes none at all, until we've now got over 70 people in 55 properties.
Wonderful. David, clearly one of the things we need to examine is you've come to seminars. What did you take back, because you've been to 2 of those?
Yes, because it was held in the Hawthorns, we received information as to what events were being run, and it was more out of curiosity. It was the headline, I can't remember what it was, but it was about care fees, avoiding care fees. So we came down, and I was extremely interested because I hadn't heard of anything, any similar product being on the marketplace. So I went and did the usual thing, go onto the internet, found a number of other organisations provided that sort of service. But then I spoke to my accountant, had an interesting conversation with him who, apart from the idea of saving care fees or trying to avoid having to pay care fees if you went into care, there was also the idea, which I hadn't picked up from the seminar, but I'm sure it was raised, about the disinheritance aspect. Now, I started off with nothing. My mother and father never had anything, so when they died, they never passed any, through to me. So what I've gained with my wife, we've gained through our own endeavours. It then caused me a significant amount of concern reading headlines in the paper in the last year about the amount of money that it would cost to go into care and how you could get forced against your wishes to sell your property, and the money would be taken away to pay for your care fees however long you lived, and you couldn't guarantee the quality of life that you would have. And my wife's had a number of operations, so I was a bit concerned about the future. So that was why I followed up with coming along to the second seminar and had some discussions with you, questioning you about what it provided, and moved on from there.
Yes. So do you think it's a service and a product that is timely for this point in somebody's life when they're thinking about moving into one of these retirement communities for a variety of reasons you've already discussed, but looking beyond that as to what happens with their assets, with the house, with their money, and making certain it's protected?
Yes, I think in fact somebody who's in their 40s with children probably ought to consider that.
As young as that.
Accidents happen.
Yes.
People unfortunately get killed on motorway accidents.
Yes.
So if there is the surviving spouse is in their 40s with a couple of children, the chances are they're going to get married again. Then what happens? The disinheritance factor comes in.
Yes.
And I think it's all too easy to leave these sorts of aspects, these sorts of investments, these sorts of considerations until it's too late. Whether that's because legislation changes or a partner dies, and then you're in that, you could be in the hands of other organisations under different sorts of pressures. And it's probably better to go along this particular route when you've got things that are relatively easy in your mind, rather than being pressurised because a tragic event might happen or government legislation comes across.
Would you recommend this to your friends?
I don't think I would have gone along with doing it, and I spent 2 to 3 months of investigation and discussions with you.
Indeed.
If I hadn't have thought that it was an appropriate product, an appropriate organisation to work with, you wouldn't have seen me again.
David, thank you very much for allowing us to talk to you about this, and may I wish you every success and continuing happiness in your retirement community.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.